All right. Well, welcome everybody to Academic Tech Training this week. We're excited to welcome Adobe and in particular Donna Caldwell from Adobe. Also joining us from Adobe is CC DeWall, who's our customer success representative. So you might want to say hi to her if you have a chance to ping her in the chat or whatever. Quickly, before I introduce further our presentation today, I just want to remind you that due to the holiday, we will not have an academic tech training next week, and but we will be back on tap on July 14th for Go React, and the following week, July 21st, Donna will be back from Adobe to show us Premiere Rush, which is a pretty cool little tool. I've been playing with it, and we're excited to see what you and your students can do with that tool. Today, we're going to be looking at Adobe Spark, and Donna's going to show us examples of how faculty and staff are leveraging Spark and walking their students through the creation process, and probably some where they're creating stuff themselves for their students, I imagine. I know I've used it before for that purpose, and I've had my students use it. So it's a handy tool that I really like. And so without further ado, I'm going to hand the reins over to Donna, and I will mute myself and just let me know how I can help out, Donna, if there's anything I can do. All right.
Thank you so much, Mike. Hi, everyone. I'm Donna Caldwell. As Mike said, I'm a solutions consultant from Adobe. So I work strictly with education. And I love doing these types of events where I just kind of surface what the functionality of something is for a specific goal. I want to talk about Spark as a set of applications, but what I want to first do is just show you how people are leveraging the power of Spark in their everyday studies, whether it's a faculty member or whether it's a staff member or a student. So let me go ahead and share my screen. And let me go through, hang on. I've got so many different windows I created so that we could move faster. And of course, it doesn't always happen the way you hope. All right, let's get rid of this. All right. If everybody, if you could just quickly put in the chat pod whether you've had any experience with any of the 3 Adobe Spark applications. It's a family of apps. One is called Spark Post, the other is Spark Page, and the third is Spark Video. And just so everyone has a better idea of why you would use one of those 3 in any particular situation, I'm going to go through, as I said, and I'm going to show examples. Okay, good to know. Okay, that's awesome. Thank you, everyone, for responding. That's so helpful. Okay. So let's go through and start talking about some examples. Spark Post was originally designed for just getting out social posts quickly. There are thousands of templates that you can remix and customize to your needs. We all know that a blank canvas is often harder to get moving on a project than something that's either a template or a starter or something that inspires you. Even just something that you look at and say, yes, that's something that I would like to do, not exactly that way, but it really helps you move forward with what you really want. You know, sometimes seeing what we don't like is a great way to find out what we do like. These can be any size. We have templates that are specific for, let's say, Instagram, Facebook, those types of things, but you can also make posters, flyers. I used to do quite a bit of production using Creative Cloud applications before I joined Adobe. And once anybody finds out that you know how to use these tools, you have a lot of your friends who say, from nonprofits, who say, oh, could you please make a flyer for this event or a flyer for this event? And I typically would do those in InDesign because of the control I had. But with Spark, I started either creating a first poster or a first flyer in Spark because it's just so easy. I may redo it in InDesign if I really need that very granular control. But often just that flyer itself was what I needed, and I could do it in 25% of the time or even less. And you'll see what I mean by that. This is where I feel like I see most work coming out of Spark for higher ed. We see even our K through 6 and our 6 through 12 students using this quite a bit in order to deliver reports, to tell their story. Storytelling is becoming so much more important today. We have been talking to a lot of employers who say that they don't know what jobs are going to be available at their location in 4 or 5 years because technology is changing so fast. But what they do know is no matter what their employee is doing, they are going to have to tell a story. They are telling a story about an experience with a product, or they are telling a story or an experience about the meaning of that company. I would just ask all of you to think about any car commercials that you've seen recently. I really focus on this because of my work at Adobe. I find, especially during the pandemic, it was really interesting to see what was happening with commercials. But let's just take Subaru for an example. Subaru doesn't go through necessarily all of the features of the car. They are selling an experience. And do you want that experience? And it's interesting now how so many other, Jeep has kind of jumped on that as well, several other car companies where the car is in a particular environment and they're telling a story, whether about their child or their animal. And that's what they're selling. So storytelling is becoming so much more important, and we want students to be able to tell their story. We also find that students want to tell their story. Faculty members want to tell their story. So what Adobe Web, it's often called a web page, but it's Adobe Page. This is a linear scrolling web page. You are given a URL when you are done with it. It's so easy to put together. So I'll show you lots of examples of that. Spark Video is an animated video process. We have thousands of icons that can be animated. You can put in still life slides. Think of it as kind of a PowerPoint, but it turns into a video. You can do voiceovers. That's another reason it's very popular. We find this being used heavily in our K through 6 and K through 12, as well as an example that I had just last year was there was an engineering recruitment event at a local university. I live in California, and the computer science faculty member required that every student create a Spark video introducing themselves, telling them what their passion is, what have they been studying, what are they looking for. It had to be short, to the point, and the recruiters then could have that as a takeaway as they were meeting these students. Really an effective tool to get that student's personality, their accomplishments, make an impact of that individuality that student had. So that's Spark Video, and we'll go into that as well. Let's start with just some examples of Spark posts. We just had a faculty development for our creative campuses across the country last week, and in 1 week, faculty members had to create projects across the Creative Cloud. And one of them was to use Adobe Spark for something that they are doing right now. And this one individual did an infographic, which I thought was very interesting because I don't see Spark Post being used for infographics as often. Another faculty member used Spark Post in order to create a digital business card. And we are finding that a lot more people are creating, because we're doing so much digital, they are doing digital business cards, but they're also doing digital business cards in video. So we'll talk a little bit about that, and we'll also revisit this in a couple of weeks when we come back to talk about Adobe Rush. This was another faculty member who wanted to announce a particular event. This is a really popular way that people are using Spark Post. They either want to advertise an event, a course. I have a lot of students who are in charge of clubs, and they have to go through quite often social media. So for instance, I had a student in California who, she said she was so busy with her school schedule, but she was also responsible for creating the Facebook banners, a lot of the announcements to get her club members to come. And she said Spark made that so much faster and easier for her. This is another course announcement. We'll be using this as our example as I walk through that. Again, created in Spark really quickly. And I want to really quickly just show you, we're going to go through a lot of these, but I want to show you the landing page before I get into Spark Page and Spark Video too much. When you sign into spark.adobe.com, you are given a platform that includes all of the 3 applications. It shows you templates, you know, what is the branding going to be that you want to use. And it's kind of a lot to take in. But what we try to do in Spark is just point everyone to this plus sign. This is where you're going to start creating something in Spark. Now, Spark has 2 versions. It has the public free Spark, but it also has what we call Spark Premium. And all education institutions have Spark Premium for free. They just need to be deployed by your IT department to get access to it. And what is the difference between just free Spark and Spark Premium? Spark Premium gives you access to the full number of templates, icons. We have about 20,000 assets. You also can collaborate on Spark pages, which is really great. Let's say that you're a faculty member or you are a staff member who's created a Spark page. We do this internally at Adobe all the time. I love Spark pages as leave behinds for customers so that they can go to that. They can have links, videos, images, content, anything that I've placed in that Spark page. But if things change at Adobe, I can update that Spark page, and that Spark page now has a perpetual link. So when they open it the next time, they get the latest version of that information. They don't have to worry about Rev 1, Rev 2, Rev 3. So when I create something, my coworker may say, that is a great Spark. I'd really like to use the foundation of that for another project I have for another audience where I'd like to customize it for them. So what they can do is allow me to, they can share it, I can duplicate it, and then I can take it and make it my own. Instead of using that link, I can start with a brand new link. We'll talk more about that when we get into Adobe Page. But what I want to show you are, if I go in and I want to do, let's say, an Instagram post, I want to give you an idea of just how many templates we have available. As your internet just continues to work, and mine seems to be working pretty slow today. And I was just in here a few minutes ago. Let's see if we can go back. All right, here we go. Let's try that one more time. I can see that there are literally scrolling and scrolling. Let me see if I can get this. What I'd like to get is the search out of here just for a second. All right, let's do it this way then. It wants me to try to classify what type of template I want to use. And the reason for that is when you've got thousands and thousands of templates, what do you want to focus on? Are you trying to do a new course announcement? Are you trying to talk about another event? I use Spark Post now for pretty much every birthday card I do or get well or whatever I want to do. If I want to send a special thought to a friend, because I can include this in my text messages, especially this last year and a half, I wasn't going to the store very often and getting cards and using the postal service, but I knew everybody could get access to these immediately. And I keep scrolling and scrolling, and these are all of the templates that I have access to. So let's go through this real quickly. What would that process be? Let's say that I would like to create a Spark post for a new course. So I'm going to say new, actually, I don't want Instagram. So let me go back. I want it to be bigger just because I'm demoing on a smaller screen. So let's go back and say, instead of an Instagram or a Facebook, I'd like to do a web page, meaning that I would have a 16:9, not a web page. Sorry, you guys. Wow. Let's do a Facebook post. I want something larger. Sorry about that. I'm looking for a new course announcement because I'd like to get a flyer out, or I'd like to have a some sort of electronic way to display. I know we have a lot of schools who have digital billboards now across campus. This is a great way to create content for that. You can see I'm scrolling through. Do I see anything that really catches my eye just yet? Let's see. Let's, the one I was really looking for, I don't see it now. So let's try this one. You see it in a larger size now. I can evaluate whether this is really something I want. I could go through and look at some other templates. But if this is the one that I want, I could say, all right, let's create this from this particular template. This has now dropped that template into my workspace, and I can start playing around with it. I can individualize it, right? Customize it. And I don't know, maybe this one might have been a little bit better. Let's take a look at this one. Woodworking courses. Let's do that one instead. Not that this is going to be a woodworking course, but it has some other, for instance, some icons. Okay, I shouldn't have tried to do that, sorry. Trying to open up too many things at the same time. So let's see if we can find that one that we just were looking at. I really liked that one a lot better. There we go.
And while you're working on that, Donna, while it pulls up, Julie Hatchett in the chat mentioned that she's also interested in learning possibly how to use Spark to make a newsletter. She works with some community partners and would love to pull in like United Way's colors.
Yes, that is perfect for Spark Page. We have people doing that all the time. So we'll jump to Spark Page next, and we'll get into that. So Cece, if I don't mention that as part of Spark Page, please remind me. That would be great. Thank you.
Of course.
All right. So one of the things I was going to say about Spark is that Spark is theme driven, which means it's template driven. In Spark Page and Spark Video, you don't have as much control over very fine elements like I want 18-point type that's this particular font. And that is done on purpose because the feedback we're getting from faculty is that their students can focus on their story and on their message because they don't go down the rabbit hole of spending a half hour saying what was the right font or what's the right color scheme. Some of those things are very difficult, especially if you're a detail-oriented person. I find myself, getting caught going down that route. But with Spark Page and Spark Video, you pick a theme that you feel carries that emotional content that you want with your physical content or your text or the story that you're telling. And then it makes the decisions for you. It decides for the most part on the colors. It decides often what those fonts are going to be according to the editorial element that you use. Spark Post, on the other hand, is different. It lets you really get down on a granular level. So for example, if I want to change this text, I just click on the text block. I'm going to say this is a student leadership course. This was actually another template that I saw previously. We could say this is 12-week, let's just really quickly, because I don't want to take too much time on this, course for undergraduates. I might even want to put in the course number. Now I can move these around. I can make them larger, resize this. Which I might do. I'm not really sure if in this case I really need these saws, but what I can do is I could replace the icon with another topic. We have just, again, thousands and thousands of icons. Let's see if I put in, to tell you the truth, I've never put in leadership before for icons. Let's just see what comes up. I like any of these. Actually, I kind of like that one. Let's see if I can make that a little bit larger. And maybe I'll put that down at the bottom. I'm gonna get rid of this guy, just hitting the delete key. I'm gonna make this a little bit bigger. Place that in here a little bit larger. And as you can see, I can play around with this on a very granular level if I want. I have these nice little magic guides that are helping me align text. I could put in, for instance, the course number here. But the other thing I'd like to do is, obviously this is not the right image for the message I'm trying to provide. So I'm going to click on the image, and it says edit image because there's already an image in the template. I'd really like to replace this. And what I'd like here is, actually, I'd really like something that shows more of a business. Oh, and I like this. I love this image. So let's let it replace it. I might want to change some of the color scheme. I can remove background. Let's say that I had an image of a person or some other main object focus. I could go ahead and have it remove the background like Photoshop does. This is one of the newer features that I really love. You can also change the look and feel by using filters in here. I could just change the look. Let's say that that's not the tone. It's not giving you the feeling you want for the topic that you're doing, right? I'm not really crazy about that one, but there was actually this one. I kind of liked the brighter blue in here. And I can go in and, work with other enhancements. I can create a blur if I wanted maybe the background to be blurry because I really wanted people to focus on the foreground. But once I'm done, I can either share this across social media directly from Spark, or I can download it as an image, either a PNG, a JPEG, or a PDF. And that's where, if I wanted to create a flyer, I could go ahead and download that as a PDF, and I could just send it off to my printer, either my inkjet that I have, or I could send it down to the school printing area. It's just an incredibly versatile tool. Now, another thing I want you to keep in mind as we work in Spark Page and Spark Video is often I don't have the customized graphics I want sometimes for my Spark page or for my Spark video. So what I'll do is I'll create a custom 16:9 aspect ratio, which is what's going to work on most web screens. I'll create that graphic that's customized to the topic I'm talking about, and then I'll just bring that in as an image. So let's take a look next at Spark Page so you guys can get an idea of that. Were there any questions about Spark Post specifically before I jump to Spark Page?
I don't see any in the chat, Donna. People seem to be liking it.
Okay.
Tanya asks, is there a way to easily have an ad create different layouts? For example, you're posting to Facebook, Instagram, and a website, but want the fields to remain the same. So you've designed it once,
Yes.
And then would love to maybe remix it for the different platforms.
Yes, thank you. That's exactly what resize is for. And this is another reason I will often use Spark Post sometimes if I'm just trying to get a set of marketing pieces out quickly for a nonprofit, some friend who's asked me to do something, because I may need an 8.5 by 11 flyer, but they also would like a Facebook banner, or they'd also like to post it on Instagram to get more participation in the event. And we do that by going to this button called Resize. And there's just so many things in Spark Post that I would take me a whole hour to do that. But I could go through and say, all right, I have this for Instagram, but maybe I'd rather have this now for Facebook. And it's like having a designer in your back pocket. AI and machine learning is going to try to do that very first remix of it. Now, in this case, if I had basically kind of linked these two together, I would probably have gotten a better result from this, but it has made a first attempt to resize. I can you know, move these things around, but it's going to be a lot easier, especially if I've done a multiple pane project. So let me, actually, I want to make a comment about that. Let's go to design. And let's say that I want to, looking for a design that had multiple images. Actually, let's just start. Let's just go back and start a new one. I think I might be able to do it faster this way.
Would that multiple images be an example, like if there's a speaking event, you have multiple speakers on campus, or what's one of the use cases?
Yes. Or let's say that you're doing an advertisement for a club where you're going to do some outdoor event up in the mountains, right? Or some other gorgeous place, you know, in Utah, or one of those other places that I just returned from, actually. You may want to have multiple pictures inspiring someone, you know, maybe they're hiking in one, climbing in another, or maybe they're kayaking in another. And you want to talk about how this event is going to cover all of that. That's what you might have, multiple panes. And I'm just looking, I don't want to spend too much time on this, but
I know in the summer we have a camp at BYU called Aspen Grove, kind of up by Sundance on the way to Park City. And we also do some like school leadership camps there, are really fun.
And that would be a perfect example of this. Actually, you know what? Maybe I could say camp. Let's just do that. See if I can come up with something. All right, let's use this one.
That's fun. And right now we also have our sports camps on campus, a few of those. And I know Yasi is coming up this next week. My husband was a young ambassador, so excited for that, coming back and in person this year. And I got an ad this morning for ballroom camp. So lots of youth camps happening on campus this summer.
Let's say, join us for summer fun. Okay. And I'm probably going to change some of that and close this. So let's make this a little bit smaller so that it fits on a single line. Pop this up here. I'm going to make summer camp bigger really quickly and just bring it down. I may want to replace some of these because it may not be the beach. It may be the forest, right? Or the mountains. All of the images that I'm looking for here are royalty-free images. And that's another really cool thing about Spark is you can upload your own images, but you can also upload any of these royalty-free images, and it will, especially in Spark Page and Spark Video, it will give the attribution for that image, which is kind of cool. So that's another thing that's really great for students. Now, here's another part. I'm not going to take the time to replace all these, but do you see how there's this little divider in between? I can use this to change the aspect ratio of any of these images. And when I go do a resize, it's also going to take that into consideration. If I had to do that into InDesign, I would have to be individually working out ways for that image to align perfectly with the other one. It's just really cool how quick it is. I could say, well, I really want these top pictures to come down underneath summer camp. Why I want the bottom ones to be smaller, or I want to bring this up into more of a shorter banner. All of this I can adjust with just these little sliders. Very cool. So jump in. I would love to hear questions, or I would love to see some examples of where you think you might be able to leverage this tool. And I'm going to actually, I meant to do this. I'm going to go ahead and put my email in here. And I know Cece would love to see some examples of what you guys are doing. But let's go jump over now to Spark Page. I'm going to,
Donna,
yes.
Maddie Christensen has her hand raised. I don't know if we can.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Please. Maddie, did you have a question?
Yeah, sorry. You might cover this, but I was just wondering if it's possible to create a web page, but then incorporate it into an existing website.
Yes. So Spark Page, which we're going to look at right now, is essentially a scrolling web page. And we have an embed code for both Spark Page and Spark Video. So if you take that embed code, you can just go ahead and pop it in an iframe or another frame inside of an existing website. People do that all the time. And we do that inside of actually our Adobe portfolio, which is where I'm getting a lot of these samples. Faculty have shared them inside of their portfolio. Just to talk about who they are, what their vision is for teaching. So that's where I was pulling most of those earlier. This is another one that was just done by, and this is in that individual's portfolio and embedded. So I'll show you that when we go ahead and share it. This is a Spark page that was created to, again, advertise a particular course. We see this a lot. We also see faculty who use it for what is the course requirements going to be. And the thing that's nice about this is if the instructor needs to change anything throughout the semester, they can. And the next time the student opens up this project, they have the latest version of what that is. So this is Spark page. All of this parallax scrolling, all of the different effects you see, all of this is automatic depending on the theme that you choose. And this individual was talking about how they're going to implement Rush as part of the course, which we'll be talking about in a couple weeks. Video is just becoming so popular in all aspects of education, from preschool all the way up through higher ed. And when I go to create this, I'm going to make sure that I go to the share button. I'll show you where that embed code is. This one is another one done by a professor at the University of Alabama, Birmingham. He did his project on the history of English language. The images inside of these stories, this could have been a 10-page paper or a 20-page paper or a 1,500 word paper, but the images really help bring that topic alive. We, as human beings, we have many different senses. Our eyes take in information in different ways. And I find that I see a lot of these page projects. I don't mean to look all the way through them because I don't have time to look at all of them, but I tend to go through all of the page projects because I get so enthralled by what someone is talking about. And I get drawn in by the images that they use in order to make their topic really come alive and make it more human. So this is the language one. This is one that was done by a group of students. This is a science and memory data story where they go out and it's the School of Journalism in Oregon. And the students use this to deliver the information that they acquired through their research. And often it involves environmental aspects, what's happening in that area that they live in. Very cool. Notice that you can embed videos. Actually, we link to them. Here's another thing I love about Spark Page. We have a lot of photo grids here, right? Those photo grids are done automatically, but I'd really like to get a better look at this. If I click on any photo grid, it brings those photos in full screen. And then the navigation is automatically placed in there, and I can get a better look at what these photos have. And then to get out of that mode, I just click in the upper right-hand corner. The X will always take you out of the zoomed in version. And I'm right back in my, I'm right back inside of my project. And I like this, especially with video. So for example, if I open this up, I can go ahead and play this video, but I'm not being dropped into YouTube. And what I like about that is my viewers are not going to be distracted by all the things that are on the right-hand side that I tend to look over and I say, oh, that looks interesting. And then I get off the focus that I have. When I click that X, I'm right back in my Spark project. This was a business audit that all students in this particular business course had to produce. They had to research a brand. It could have been Walmart, Patagonia, We had Carl's Jr. I think there was Chick-fil-A. I mean, it was just amazing, all of the different businesses that students chose. And what they had to do is analyze how that company was delivering business across social media, through digital. And this was basically their final project. Instead of a paper, they came in, reported on what they discovered about this particular business. There are links that would take you out to different web pages, images, videos. They brought all of this in as part of that brand audit. This was one due to Juneteenth, just happening recently. A student created a reflection on what Juneteenth means to them. And I loved this one. And this to me really epitomizes the power of Spark Page. What a faculty member did at Virginia Commonwealth University is they used one of their portfolios. So Adobe Portfolio can produce 5 different portfolios. And he asked other faculty members and students to tell their story. Most of these people did not have or did not feel comfortable enough with digital skills to really spend the time to develop something that was, web savvy. But by using Spark Page, they were able to just focus on their story. So if we click on Read Our Stories, it takes you to a page, and this is all of these different people who created a Spark page. Notice that this is embedded inside of here, which is exactly what was asked earlier. And it goes through Murray's really a life story, telling his story of how being Black impacted him as a child, as an adult. These are just so touching. These stories are just very informative as well. In fact, we also see people doing travelogues, students who go away for a semester or for a year, and they want to talk about what they want to remember, what they want to bring. I just got back from my Adobe sabbatical just a couple of weeks ago, where I van camped across the Western United States, going from national park to national park. And I wanted to share some of these experiences with my family and coworkers. And so I used Spark to just quickly, I did this on my phone because I didn't have access to Wi-Fi for most of the trip, but I was able to share where I went, all of these amazing things that I saw as I went on this trip. By the way, Spark Page is adaptive. So when you look at a Spark page on a phone, it's beautiful. It has some really great AI that lets you see this without pinching and zooming. And again, I included a ton of images, as you can see. So I wanted people to be able to click on that image and then go through this to see the larger images. All right, so that's Spark Page. Let's talk about how we start a Spark page. And I want to go through the Spark Page options really quickly so that people can understand when we start working on these, what they mean. So you have a title, you're asked to do a background photo, and then it works very similar to the way that an HTML label would work. You have a heading 1, a heading 2, a pull quote, a bulleted list, a numbered list, and a normal paragraph. That's really what you're restricted to as far as editorial elements. Every theme that you choose is going to represent these differently, but the editorial elements will stay the same. So this is, in this particular theme, this is what a pull quote looks like. This is what a bulleted list and a numbered list looks like. This is a photo using the window format. You can see that it just slides through this. I use this often to separate sections of content in my Spark page. This is a fill screen where I have an option to put in a caption if I would like, that's going to be across this. This is a full width photo. This is taking the entire photo and making sure that it fits. And then, of course, this is the photo grid. This is one of my favorite parts of Spark Page. This is called a glide show. You choose a background image, and then you have this glide show that goes over the top. This can be left aligned, right aligned, or centered. And in that glide show, I can have photos, links, videos, all of these different pieces. Just, it's just amazing to me that I can do this and have it done automatically. One of our most recent features is called a split screen. So you could have a photo on one side, and then you could have text, all of the different elements that we talked about that go in a glide show, you could have those appearing on the other side, and you can swap them. So I did one recently. It was a kind of a relationship story between myself and a coworker that I need to work with, and the management had asked us to talk about what works well between us. So I just went back and forth between these split screens, and each split screen had a particular topic that I wanted to focus on for that relationship. All right, so let's create a Spark page and let's talk about how that works. Again, I just go to that plus sign with the circle, but this time what I'm looking to create is a web page. And I'm given essentially a blank canvas with some instructions. What's the first thing I would need to do? Well, it's telling me add a title. So this may be my story, my report, my course, my newsletter. I do have, just because somebody asked about that, let me see if I can find that. She uses this. She uses this to do her, nope.
Donna, we also have a question if it will look the same on PC versus Mac.
Yes, because Spark is completely web browser. So if you're using Chrome, you're using Chrome on both a Mac and on a PC. If you're using, Safari or on the Mac, or if you're using one of Firefox, everything is going to be done in the web, and it's constantly saving in the background. You never do a manual save. You will do a manual share, but you will not do a manual save. Oh, here's one. This is a newsletter. Essentially, it's a report that this individual has to put out on a regular basis. This was the report for 2017, 2018, but she also does quarterly updates. And that's exactly what people are using for newsletters. They can bring in images to give people an idea of what's going on, give them the facts, the data that they need, advertise events, whatever you want to do in that newsletter. We also have a way of putting in a table of contents. I'm not going to go into that right now. It's a little complicated. But for instance, if I had 5 sections to this Spark page, I could either link out to additional Spark pages, or I could have a set of titles here that then I could link to different sections, and it would drop down to that part in the Spark page if you didn't want someone to have to scroll through the whole thing. All right, let's just go back really quickly to that Spark that I was creating. And it should, if I go to my projects, it should show me an incomplete that I had started here. This is when I finish a project, I can hover over it and I have lots of options. This is where I'm going to share with someone, collaborate, duplicate. I also get a little bit of data. I can see if people have appreciated, how many people have seen it, right? So if I look down here, I can see that for this particular faculty development Spark I created, 133 people have seen it. I have 1 like. 448 people have seen this particular Spark. So let's just go back and just put in a few elements here. I'm not going to put a subtitle, but now it's saying, add a photo. We have this gray background. I have all of these different places that I could pull in photos. Creative Cloud, Lightroom, Adobe Stock. I can upload a photo that I have on my device. Or I could just say, I don't really have a photo on this particular story, so I'm going to look through the free photos, and I can do a search. In this case, I'm just going to look for some backgrounds, but I could look for a school. I could look for just any type of a photo that would help engage my audience and also give them an idea, kind of an emotional idea of what I'm going to be talking about. let's just use this one for now. And as I scroll, I'm going to be prompted constantly. What would you like to do next? It's putting in front of me all of the options that I have. So if I'd like to put in another photo, let's put in this one. Then once I put in the photo, I'm given prompts. What do you want to do with that photo? How do you want it to display? Would you like it to be in line, which means that the whole photo fits? Would you like to fill screen? Have a window where it basically has a very defined height of like 4 inches that goes up. Again, like I said, I really like using this for a break across different sections if I have a long one, or I could just say full width, but I'm going to say fill screen. And then I can continue down. I could add a photo grid. Let's do something different. Let's do mountains, because we might be doing this to help our students understand what they need to bring for the camp that they're going to. What are the contact information that maybe their parents want to have or they want to have? What is the equipment list? What is the duration, the dates? What's going to be offered there? So I'm just going to take, let's say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. I can move these around if I would like. So I can go back in if I click on this and say that I want to edit the grid, but I'd really like this dark one to be in the bottom left. So I'm just going to move it across. I'd like the brighter blue over in the bottom right-hand corner. And then when I'm done, I click save, and I can just go ahead and move forward. As I mentioned, the glide show is really easy. I can choose 1 or 2 photos that I would like to have scrolling in the background. Let's say this one. And I'm going to say, good, that's the photo that I want. And now I'm presented with a blank glide show. When I click on the plus sign, and again, as I said, we just follow those plus signs through. Click on text. I'd like this to be an H1. I'm going to just call this glide show. Why is this coming in red? Well, this has to do with the fact that I have access, like you do, to Spark Premium, which lets me create different themes and brands. This is my Adobe brand. Obviously, it has red, but I could create a brand that has BYU colors, logos. We're going to talk a little bit more about that, but that's where my themes are over here on the right. Let me put in a couple of other things in here. Let's put in a pull quote. And let's also put in here a button. This would be a link that would take my users to a particular place. So for more information, or if you want to know more about this topic, and I'm just going to use, just because adobe.com is really short, center it, click save. All right. And now you can see that this scrolls through. I can move that to the center. I can also move this over to the right, depending on what I would like to do. And I can look at different themes. So this is my set of branded themes that I have. The standard themes are all the ones that go underneath Spark themes. I have Storybook, Trek, Nightcap. Nightcap I use a lot when I want a very dark background, because I want the images to stand out. Notice that it's changed the look and feel of this entire project. We have very professional ones. We have fun ones, kind of whimsical ones. You can see the one called Whimsy. Baldwin is another one that I like to use when I'm doing a professional one. And at any point as well, I can go in and do a preview so that I get rid of all of the instruction, all the plus signs that help me navigate this. So I can really get a feel for what does that distance look like going across this. My links work when I'm in preview. So if I click, that's going to take me outside to a, another URL. It's going to open up an additional web tab. I'm going to get out of preview by clicking in the upper right-hand corner. And let's talk a little bit about themes. If I go back to my Spark page, I always like to go back to the house when I want to change direction of what I'm doing. I have a button called Brands. With Spark Premium, I have the ability to create multiple brands. So I have my Adobe brand, but I also have brands that other people have created and shared with me. I've notice all the different color schemes. So let's just take a look at this one. This is my coworker shared this with me. And these are all of the things that he could add. He wanted to have a logo. Again, could be a school logo. It could be a club logo, a department logo. What is the color scheme going to be? This is going to be the major colors, but you can also choose to have additional colors. What are the fonts that are going to be used throughout this project going to be? And then if you want to have different versions of that theme, a light, a medium, and a dark, depending on the content that you place in here, how do you want those to look? So he chose this aqua green background with white for the medium, and then for the dark, he's using a lighter version of the aqua against that black background, which I really love. You can also personalize taglines and logos that show up immediately when you open up a project. So when the project is going into the kind of refreshing, you'll see a logo. You have a stamp that can go at the end, and you can also create an outro. How would you like to customize that outro? Do you want everyone to know that it was done by you as a particular faculty member, a particular department, or just your school in general? This lets you unify a branding so that anyone who sees it understands it's coming from the same location. All right. I know we only have a little bit more time, so I do want to talk a moment about Spark Video. I really love using Rush because it gives me a lot more versatility. But for someone who is just starting out with video, who is never created a video before, Spark Video is so easy. And I want to show you just a couple of examples of that.
And as we transition, Donna, this question from the chat, when you do it as a newsletter, would you publish it as a web page, or would you be able to embed it in an email? What's kind of the best practice for sharing?
Well, that's a great question. For anyone who is going to view it, they are going to need to view it in a web browser. You can use that embed code, as I mentioned, which I forgot to do it, so thank you for bringing that up. To share this, any of your projects, you go to the share button, and here's this publish and share link. This is what's going to determine partly what people are going to see and how they're going to see it. This is the URL that they're going to need. Sometimes I create a bit.ly. I can also immediately post it to all of these, but here is that embed code. So typically what I will do if I want everyone to see my Spark pages, I will do a little screen capture of the front page of it. I can put it in an email or a text, and then I apply the link for that. But if your audience goes to a particular web page in order to see the most recent newsletters, then I would use this embed code and I would place that on the web page. When they do that, they come to the web page and they see the embed. Basically, it'll be this thumbnail with an active link, though when they go ahead to click, they'll see the pointy finger, right? It will open that up then either inside of that web page and they can scroll through it where they stay on that website, or it can take them out to an external web tab, a browser tab, and they can look at it. Every time I make changes to this, I will get the option of, let's say that I say, let's just change this from examples to example. Now I go back to share. Boy, my internet is so slow today. I cannot believe it. And I'm even plugged in.
It's just trying to motivate you to take another vacation.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't want to turn my Wi-Fi on because sometimes that slows it down more because I'm directly cabled here. Let's see if that's going to update. Come on. Usually Spark is so quick, but we've been having some problems since I've returned. By that's saving, I am going to go back to another, let me go back to another window. And let's just take a look at this. This is an example of Spark Video. You're going to notice that this is very simple. Let me go ahead.
Hi there, my name is Aaron Manuel, and I'm going to be talking in this video about my internship at the ABC company in New York City. I spent the summer of 2019 in New York City as a business marketing intern. In my role, I worked 40 hours a week developing content used in pitches to potential sponsors.
I think you get the idea. It lets you use kind of a Ken Burns if you have a single image. You can also bring in short pieces of video, but where its real power is to take static slides and text and icons and animate those with a particular theme. Now that was done by a student. This was done by a faculty member who wanted to hand this out to his students as a bit of a precursor for his course on colonial slavery. He used nothing but images, but you'll see that it has kind of that Ken Burns effect. Actually, it's a fascinating Spark video. I learned so much from this because what he focuses on is the sugar trade down outside of our main United States continent, and how that really are supporting that sugar trade ended up impacting slavery, not so much for the number of slaves that came to the United States as we know it now, but that it gave the money and the power to bring more slaves to that particular area, which increased the number of slaves being brought from Africa. It's an absolutely fascinating, let me just go into this just a tiny bit. Whoops.
Grammarly does more than catch
Sorry,
errors.
and I'm on YouTube, so.
With Grammarly, you can find.
So I got an advertisement.
Relatively speaking, very few enslaved Africans were sent to the English colonies of North America that eventually became the United States. Of the roughly 10 to 11 million enslaved Africans who survived the Middle Passage across the Atlantic Ocean from Africa to the New World, only 4 to 5% ended up in English North America. Can we then conclude that English Americans played little or even no role in the growth of New World slavery? In other words, how could the vast majority of English Americans have had anything to do with slavery if there were so few enslaved Africans in North America?
And he goes on to talk about that's not the case at all, that due to what was going on here down below Florida, what is today Florida, that made an even bigger impact. So just absolutely fascinating. I also find that when people are doing distance learning, I've talked to several faculty members who said that by doing an introduction video about themselves or having the students create quickly a Spark video about themselves, the retention in the class was better. People felt that they had more of a personal connection with the faculty member and with the other students. So this is such an easy way for them to create it. When it's a psychology class, a biology class, a chemistry class, many students are not going to have experience creating video, but it's really easy to put this together. So let's talk about how we can do that very quickly.
We have
a
few questions.
Yes.
Will the students have access to the premium version as well, or is that just for full-time employees?
No, any student, faculty member, staff can get access to the premium version. All IT has to do is just give them access on the Adobe admin console. There's a product entitlement and it's basically unlimited for everyone who attends the school, part-time, full-time, staff, faculty, anybody can have access to it.
Great, go ahead.
Cece, was there any other questions though at the same time? No?
Not connected to this, so go ahead.
Okay. When you open up Spark Video for the very first time, you're going to see that it has a 1 minute and 7 second instruction, which really get you going. I'm not going to take the time to do it, but you'll look across the bottom and you'll see it's more of a kind of a slide one. You can just say, well, I want to add another slide. In that slide, you have different layouts. You just click on what you'd like to do. So for example, if I want a full screen and I'm prompted, do you want a video here or a photo? Well, I'd like a photo. I'd like to upload a free photo. This is about elephants when I went to an elephant reserve. So maybe I want to place that. Over the top of that, I can have a title, icons, any number of things. I'm going to add then another slide. And in this case, I want a split screen. So I'm going to click on that. Over here, maybe I want to put an icon with elephants. Let's see if I can let's use this one. And I'm going to put in here visiting the Wildlife Reserve in Monterey, California. Okay. I can swap these, and I can also change the size of things, and which I'm not going to do right at the moment. But again, this is theme driven. So just by changing the theme and the color, it's going to change the animations. It's going to, let's say that I'd like to have a purple theme. And because all the icons are vector, it can go in and manipulate those so quickly and easily. And that's a pretty bright purple, so maybe that wasn't the best one for this. I also have the option to voiceover, which I know we're running out of time, but this is where students can add their voice to whatever they're doing. They could say, instead of this telling the whole story, the text, they could talk about what their personal, what that experience had on them personally, and bring their emotion. I saw a Spark video done by I think she was a 4th or 5th grader. She was selling Girl Scout cookies, and she created a Spark video to advertise it. I tell you, I wanted to try to track her down and buy, 10 boxes of cookies. She was amazing. And how she used this tool to end up creating this advertisement for, buying Girl Scout cookies from her. I can preview this at any time. I'm going to start it from, let's see. Oh, and I can add a background. I can add sounds. And you can see that the animations will change depending on the theme that I chose. So we were able to add some video that we took. And again, I don't want to take too long, but you can see that you can do all kinds of combinations. And then to share this, again, when I publish it, I can create an MP4. So I could include that. I could add that to social media. I could place it on a website, just because it's a very standard video format. All right, I'm going to get out of that preview mode. Any questions?
Looks like they've been answered. If anyone else has additional questions, feel free to share them in the chat, or Donna and I, we've each shared our emails earlier. Feel free to reach out to us. We'd love to see what you and your students and teams create. We think these are great tools.
Yeah, I hope people are excited about how easy this can be. I think that's really the strength of Spark. Obviously, Adobe has incredibly powerful applications that are used by, entertainment studios, that are really pushing the boundaries of digital media. But what's wonderful about Spark is that you can create an engaging digital asset and have it be really easy. Focus on your story. Don't have to focus on all of those production aspects that can really slow a process down and can confuse students and faculty who are not familiar with it. Yes, once you download it. And to that question, I just happened to look over and see that question. Once it's downloaded, that basically is a timestamp of that video in Spark Video. So when I go back to my projects, I will still have access to that project, and I can go and edit it, but the video itself is the one that I download will be the most current one. So unlike Spark Page, where when you change Spark Page, the next time someone opens that URL, you get the updated link and the updated content, and that's because that's completely in the web. One of the things that was really important with Spark Video is we found that we were seeing this used in like preschools. My sister works in the preschool vertical, and they were using Spark Video to help evaluate a child's progress. And they wanted to be able to remove the project as soon as they downloaded the MP4. They didn't want to keep it up in the web. So that's another question I get quite often is, can I delete this project? And yes, you can. You can go to the 3 dots and you can say that you want to unpublish it. and you want to delete that project. So anyway, I hope everybody got information. Let's see, for the web page, can you share it directly through email, or do you need to upload it to web? Yes, I think we covered that, right?
Yes, yeah. When you will click share, it will make the unique URL, and then you can share that URL to that web page, or you can embed it in a department site or something like that hosted by BYU, or you can take the URL and share it. And I really like Donna's suggestion of having a screenshot of the top of the page, then hyperlinking that image to be to the URL, because then people will see it. You'll have much more engagement and people interacting with it rather than just a plain link. And I want you to click through and people interacting after you put that work forward to make your Spark pages.
Exactly. All right. Well, I want to thank everyone again for coming. I look forward to seeing anybody who returns for the Rush enablement. I love Adobe Rush. It is, I was never really heavily into video before because my background was in publishing. So I've just been able to jump in and have so much fun creating my own videos. So that's really cool. And somebody was asking about the date on that. Mike, can you tell us the date again on that? I can actually look at my calendar as well.
Yeah, that is July 21st at 11 a.m.
Yep.
So instead of 10 like we did today, it'll be the usual 11 o'clock for these sessions. And also Go React is not next week, but 2 weeks from now on the 14th of July. So if any of you are interested in that, invite you that as well. Not to take the spotlight off of Adobe at all. Because it's a completely different tool. But if you want to sign up for the future trainings, just go to teachanywhere.byu.edu, and in fact, let me just show you really quick. I don't have a page up. Let me get a browser window up, and I'll show you. Come on. Yeah, apparently you're not the only one with slow internet today.
Yeah, that was frustrating.
Okay, so now I'm going to share because this should be available. There we go. Okay, so if you go to Teach Anywhere and go to trainings and workshops and look for upcoming trainings and workshops, you can come here and you'll see the 14th for Go React, and then July 21st, Adobe Rush, Premiere Rush. So you can just go and there's a link to register. Just come down here, click to register, and you're good to go. We'll also announce that through the Y News, so keep your eye out there for those things coming out. All right. So thank you very, very much for coming, and to Donna and Cece for showing us this great stuff. Like I said, I've used this with my students, and they've really enjoyed it, and I think you can have some fun creating content for your students and allowing your students to express themselves, and share their stories and so forth. So we hope you'll do that, and give Donna and Cece a ring if you need help, or you can contact me here at the Center for Teaching and Learning. I'd be happy to reach out and help you with that. We do have a few more chats. They're all thank yous. Okay, so thank you guys. So we'll end today. Thank you for hanging on to the bitter end, everyone, and we'll see y'all in a couple of weeks.
Right. Thank you, everyone. Look forward to seeing you again. Take care.
All right. Bye-bye.
Go eat some lunch.
Yep.